Welcome back to another episode of Heal with Divinity. I'm your host, Keerthana Venkatesh, and this podcast is a space where we explore healing not just as an individual journey, but as something that flows through families, through generations, and through the collective. Today's conversation is especially important because it's about the children who are shaping our future and the adults who are struggling to understand them. We're talking about Generation Alpha. These are the children who are growing up in a world which is very, very different from the one that we, as their parents and even their grandparents, knew. And the beauty about this generation is that they are a wonderful mix of contradictions. So, they are emotionally perceptive, they are energetically sensitive, they're also very highly stimulated, and which is what makes them often misunderstood. In fact, as a Gen Alpha's parent, when I communicate or converse with a lot of other Generation Alpha parents, right? Um, a common set of questions that often come up is, why doesn't my child respond to authority the way I did in my childhood? Why are they so sensitive and yet so strong-willed that it's often perceived as stubbornness? And of course, why does traditional parenting no longer work? Especially with this generation, it still works with the Gen Zs to a certain extent. So, to explore this with clarity and compassion, I'm joined by Puja Agrawal. Puja is an ICF-PCC certified parenting and relationship coach. She's also an emotional intelligence practitioner and an NLP practitioner. So, through her work at Elevate with Puja, she supports parents and individuals in building emotionally safe, conscious, and deeply connected relationships. And all this is through one on one coaching, through workshops, through master classes, and most importantly, through collaborations with schools, because that is where students spend a majority of their time. She is also a parent of two Generation Alpha children herself, which means that she is bringing not just her expertise, but also lived experience into her work and into today's podcast. Her approach blends emotional intelligence with awareness and also modern parenting psychology, which has been empowering a lot of families to transform from within their relationships rather than through, bringing in fear or force into the parenting style. So, Pooja, thank you so much for being here and welcome to Heal with Divinity.
Thank you so much, Keerthana, for inviting me. And I'm really looking forward for this conversation as a parenting and relationship coach, but more of as a parent of two Alpha Gen children, right? So I love exploring how today's children relate emotionally, and Gen Alpha gives us such a unique lens to understand ourselves and our connection with them. So
Right.
I'm looking forward for our conversation today.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation. So, to begin at the heart of the entire crux of this conversation, right, Pooja? Generation Alpha children are often described as intuitive, as sensitive, as energetically aware, right? But from your experience, what makes this generation fundamentally different from the ones before, even the Gen Zs?
So very beautiful question, Kiratna, first of all, because we should understand what is the actual difference between Gen Alpha and the generations before, right? Because otherwise we just name them, label them, or judge them, right? So Gen Alpha is not more complicated. They are more emotionally tuned in. They understand emotions much easier because they grew up hearing parents, teachers, and even nowadays creators, online creators, right? So they also talk openly about feelings, emotions. So their emotional awareness develops early, right? So the second thing that you were talking about, stimulation, right? So their world is extremely fast and stimulating and highly digital.
Correct.
I remember when I was in my graduation, we get to know about internet and everything, but these children born with digital device, right? So everything is so instant, which means their nervous system is more sensitive. Even a
Right.
small moment of waiting, like app taking time to load, or any TV ad come in between. the serial or the game they are watching, right, can feel big to them. And the third one is they pick up on the emotional environment at home so instantly.
That's true.
If something at home feels off, they instantly sense it. Even if if you have, as you are also a parent of alpha gen child, right? So if you have ever experienced, even if you don't say anything, they know, they sense that we are stressed, overwhelmed, or maybe disconnected. So
Correct.
their biggest need is grounded adults who help them regulate the pace of the world. So earlier generation listened to words. Now this generation listen to what they feel from us.
Correct.
They are actually inviting us parents to be more aware and more calm and more connected with ourselves because they respond to who we are, not just what we say.
Absolutely, absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think this is where, the confusion is coming in. Like, a lot of parents seem to be struggling with authority, right? Psychologically, Gen Alpha seem to be rejecting fear based authority and responding more to emotional authenticity, like you said. So, if we can go a little deeper into this and if you can help us understand why is this shift happening and also how should parents adapt their communication style.
So what we are like, I'm having conversation with so many parents in coaching as well as parents around me in my society, in my locality, right? So when we are having conversation, we are observing across this generation that Gen Alpha has a emotional radar, has a sensitive emotional radar. So as we talked earlier, like they grow up seeing uh, talks about emotional feelings and emotions throughout their childhood, and uh, this is so common now. Like creators also talking about this very openly. So they uh, absorb emotional cues very quickly, and they are very aware of tone and the intention. So when a parent uses fear-based authority, like raising their voice or threatening consequences, I have heard parents saying, "Do this, otherwise I will put you in hostel. I will send you in hostel." Or mother mostly, if you have heard about, "Do your homework, otherwise in the evening when your father will come, I will let him know." Right? So this threatening consequences or saying, because I said so, you have to do this. These children do not feel safe. Their nervous system goes into shutdown. But when our parents speak honestly and calmly, even about their own emotions, that okay, today I'm feeling overwhelmed because of my work, Gen Alpha immediately becomes more cooperative.
Right.
This shift is happening because they can sense emotional mismatches. If a parent says, "I'm fine," but internally feels stressed or irritated, the child feels the disconnection very immediately.
Hmm.
And the moment something feels inauthentic, they stop listening.
Correct, correct. I agree, and I can completely relate to that. Yes.
So parents need to adopt from this fear-based communication to connection-based communication.
Right.
Communication cannot happen without a connection.
Correct.
That because we have to come from a curiosity and connection based communication. It means being honest in a grounded way. I remember when I was feeling overwhelmed with my work. One day I have so much with family things, also household things, my coaching work, and my child asked something. But I told that I am totally feeling overwhelmed right now. I have so much work to do. Just give me 30 minutes. I will get back to you. They were happy. They were like cooperating. Okay. Mama, it's okay. You can get back to me after 30 minutes. So that authentic communication really helps a lot to for children to cooperate with us. They are not
Right.
actually rejecting authority, they are rejecting emotional disconnection. So the
Absolutely.
connection is the foundation.
Absolutely. No, no, I completely agree with you on this. So, Pooja, going forward, many parents also tell me that their children seem to feel everything. And we've just spoken about it. You've even spoken about it now, right? So, energetically, as Gen Alpha, children sense emotions and tension and even unspoken conflicts at home, right? How can parents regulate their own energy so that their children feel safer rather than feeling overwhelmed beyond what you've explained right now?
So, Kiratna, this is very important question because I have seen many time we think the children has learned something from outside, from school, from friends, from uh, children with whom they are playing, right? So it's actually everything starts from us, from parents. So one thing we are seeing is these children feel the emotional climate immediately, as we discussed earlier also. So when we say they carry a higher vibration, it simply means their emotional sensitivity is very high. They absorb the atmosphere of home like a sponge.
Correct.
So if you have observed rushed mornings, when they go to school, and unspoken tension, or even
Mm,
parental stress at home, affects them very deeply. What child needed is regulated energy from parent, not the fake calm. Regulation does not actually mean being perfectly calm. That parent is always calm. It- we life happens, right? We lose our calm sometimes, but it means regulation means being aware of your internal state, being aware of your triggers, right? That
correct.
okay, I'm feeling that my irritation will come up. I'm feeling irritated. What I can do? So being aware of your internal state, pausing, taking some slow breaths, deep
Mm,
breaths,
mm,
and gently naming your emotion. Okay, right now, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling irritated. Because naming that emotion loosen the grip and saying, like, okay, give me some time. I'm grounding myself. It resets the environment because the children also understand that, okay, right now, my parent is not feeling good, not feeling calm, right? So that one sentence prevent them from taking parent stress personally, because many times it have also happened that when parent is stressed, they can talk any words. Okay, you have done this, you have done that, and the children take it personally that because of me, my parent is feeling stressed,
correct.
right?
Correct.
So pausing, taking slow breaths, gently naming your emotions, it resets the environment. And when parent model regulation, children naturally soften and mirror
Mm,
that grounded energy. They feel safe when our environment is steady and honest.
correct. No, very true. So now we're talking about environment, right? So every generation is shaped by its environment. That is what also kind of um, differentiates one generation from the other. We look at baby boomers, and in between they had the hippie generation. Then you had the Gen X's, and then Gen Y's, and Gen Z's, and now Gen Alphas, right? So we know that Gen Alpha is growing up in a very hyper stimulated environment where there's also a lot of emotional disconnection.
Mhm.
So, what impact do you think is this having on their nervous system and their sense of identity?
So this generation is receiving more stimulation in one day that we could have in entire week maybe, right? So I remember when we saw the internet, the YouTube and the this thing was slowly, scrolling and everything. But now, when this generation has so much stimulation in one day, constant notification, rapid content, faster problem solving, it keeps their nervous system in a heightened state almost all the time. And when the child's nervous system is constantly switched on, it becomes so much harder for them to slow down, focus, or even self-regulate. You may have seen, children cannot sit at one place for a longer time.
Right.
They need something from, juggling from one thing to another. They go from one thing to another, one game to another, one thing to another. They feel bored very easily. So I see this with many children. They can move from excitement to frustration very quickly. One moment they are excited that, okay, this game they are seeing, and suddenly some ad comes and they feel frustrated. Why this ad is coming right now? So, because their brain is processing so much information so fast, and sometimes they feel emotionally drained, even when nothing big has happened. And that is the actually hidden cost of the hyperstimulation. And the second part, as you asked for emotional disconnection, right? So, even though they are surrounded by so many people, conversation today are often shorter, mm, even distracted and faster. So their sense of identity becomes very fragile. They start defining themselves through external validation. Like, am I liked? Am I performing some good thing? Am I enough? They depends on Instagram reels, likes, comments. Their friend have seen their new clothes or not, their new dance reel or not. So when a child grows up with this high stimulation but low emotional attunement means when they can feel seen, understood, valued, heard. So when there is a low emotional attunement, their nervous system becomes overactive. With their inner sense of self becomes undernourished because they are now depending on external validation. But balancing this means giving them pockets of slowness. How children can slow. So children need emotionally present adults because children mirror parents. Children model whatever their parents are doing. So when we slow down, make eye contact, listen without judgment and without rushing, and even spending few minutes of undivided attention, their nervous system resets. Their identity becomes rooted in the connection, not in performance or likes or wins. So this impact is real, but so is the possibility. A regulated parent really can help a hyper-stimulated child discover who they truly are.
No, that's very true, and it's. I'm glad you actually kind of spoke about this, because when parents themselves are already, there's a lot of stress, managing, juggling between work and managing the house and the nuclear setup, and managing maids or nannies. And in between all of this, I think what you said was very true, that we need to be honest about our own emotions. When we are honest, I think even Gen Alphas get grounded and they understand, because they are very sensitive that way. So, again, coming back to this generational gap, right? One of the big challenges is the generational gap that comes between grandparents and grandchildren who are Gen Alphas, where they often try to raise Gen Alphas the way they probably raised their own children, or probably the way they were raised themselves, right? So, but these children are resistant to this old type of conditioning. So, how can families very consciously break this generational pattern and approach these Gen Alpha children with a fresh perspective?
This is again a very important question to address, Kiratna. Because many parents come to me and say, okay, my even their parents, grandparents of children, says, हम हमारे जमाने में ऐसे करते थे, right? And sometimes I think unconsciously, subconsciously, we also tell the same dialogue to our kids, right? So this is like every generation, I think, feel this difference because of, when we what we often forget is that every generation adapt to the world they are living in, not the world we grew up in, right? So parents and grandparents naturally fall back on what they experienced. I remember my parents used to say we used to use that diya, when electricity was not there, then we used to study in this diya. But we used to say, we have electricity now. Why should we do that? And like, so there will be difference in every generation, but uh, whatever we experienced, strictness, obedience, emotional suppression, right? Because that's what they know or we know, we also have faced the same thing, emotional suppression. But Gen Alpha simply does not respond to those patterns. And they are not being difficult, but they are wired to emotional truth and mutual respect. They respect themselves, they respect others also. In previous generation, there was like obedience, strictness, self-respect, self-care was not that thing to follow in our generation. And breaking this generation patterns start with recognizing that earlier parenting no longer works. That was about controlling. It's about connection. So instead of repeating, this is how I was raised, we parents can ask, does this really help my child feel seen and understood?
Very true.
And family can start fresh by, listening before correcting and explaining rather than demanding them to do something. Explain the reason why anything you want them to do or you think it is good. Being open to the dialogue also, like, instead of shutting them down, ask them why they want to do something or why they have some feeling rather than just shutting them down that you are not you are feeling this but it's not good, may not be good, but ask them why they are feeling the particular emotion. Maybe something underneath, deeper, you can find something else. And owning their emotion instead of protecting them.
That's
So
very,
everyone,
yes.
so even one conscious shift in family, like even if you pause just before reacting or saying I hear you, that interrupts the old patterns that have been passed down for generations. And Gen Alpha is giving us a very beautiful opportunity to, to parent with awareness rather than autopilot mode.
Correct.
When I was a young parent, when I was asking something to even my parents, they were also, हो जाती है parenting में क्या इतना नया है? We also have raised, So this kind of things has happened, but now we have a choice, right? So to we can parent with awareness rather than doing on autopilot mode to heal our own emotional habits.
Right.
We didn't know that how to name our emotions and how to regulate our emotions rather than suppressing it, which will come out eventually,
Correct.
right? And so to build relationship that on build on trust, they are not resisting us actually. They are guiding us toward a healthier way of relating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, that's very true what you're saying. So, you have often emphasized that sensitivity is not weakness, right? And many Gen Alpha children feel emotionally overwhelmed, not because they are fragile but because they are very highly perceptive. So Puja, from your experience, what grounding practices or daily rituals do you think will help these Gen Alpha children anchor their energy?
Hmm. Right. So yeah, so they are really sensitive towards energy. And as we discussed earlier about stimulation, so their mind is always on working mode. So Gen Alpha children feel everything deeply, not just their own emotions, but the energy of environment, the moods of people around them, even unspoken tension. So they are not overwhelmed because they are weak. They are overwhelmed because they are highly perceptive and their nervous system absorbs a lot, as we discussed earlier about devices and screen time, right? So grounding practices help them bringing all that energy back in the body and feel safe again. One very simple practice that we do at our home is 30-second pause. If my son is overwhelmed with all the work given at school, and after coming from school they are so much overwhelmed, so much classes and this and that and the traveling. So we take a moment to sit down and put our hands on our belly and just breathe slowly. It instantly brings their system down. Another powerful ritual is having a small anchor routine, something predictable. Some routines are predictable, their nervous system feels calm. So anything predictable routine that you can include in your everyday life, maybe a bedtime check-in, a gratitude exercise, or a reading together, or a consistent morning rhythm. Many times mm, very chaos is there in the home in the morning time because children has to go to school, uh, parents have to go to their office or work at home. So if a routine is predictable, the children feel calm in the morning. So when this morning rhythm and the bedtime routines are there in everyday life, their nervous system feel calm. These are very small routine habits, which anyways we are doing, right? We just have to make it intentionally, consciously in our routine so that it becomes a part of our lifestyle. And for emotional overwhelm, naming the feelings, as we discussed earlier, works like magic. Because when a child says, I'm feeling tired, I'm feeling less energy, I'm feeling overwhelmed, the emotion loses its intensity because they know what I'm feeling. Otherwise, they are inside them, I'm having something, but I don't know what I'm feeling, right? So these rituals anchor their energy and reduce their overwhelm and teach them emotional awareness. When grounding becomes a part of daily habit, daily life, the sensitivity becomes actually their strength instead of the struggle that we are seeing right now.
Right. That's so true. So parents, I have found, Puja, often worry that they're raising a very difficult child. Okay, and from your experience again, how do you think parents can distinguish between a child who's actually being difficult and a child who is experiencing emotional dysregulation or energetic overload?
So, Kiratna, I also have heard this difficult word that parents use very loosely without knowing actually what is difficult and what is dysregulated. I have even seen many reels on this that my child is very difficult. They don't listen to me and they don't do their homework or something, right? So, most of the time, when we call difficult behavior, is actually a child when nervous system is overwhelmed. As we discussed earlier, also Gen Alpha especially reacts to energy. not the logic. So their body speaks before their words do. A difficult child is actually making a conscious choice to push the boundaries. But a dysregulated child is reacting from a nervous system that is
Hmm.
overloaded.
Hmm.
They are not choosing the behavior that, okay, I want to, you know, create the chaos in the home. That's why I will behave this. No, the behavior may look similar, but the cause is different. And there are clear signs of dysregulation that you can say, okay, my child is dysregulated. Uh, when emotions escalate suddenly, if the child cannot explain what they are feeling, or if they are surprised by their own reaction, that suddenly how I reacted in this way, I am not like this. Or if they calm quickly when you soothe them. And that is not defiance, that is not difficult, that is overwhelming. I remember when my child was bullied in our society garden where he plays with other kids. He is otherwise a happy-going child, but that day when he came, he was behaving something differently. And because I'm aware and I know that my child is not behaving as usual, so I just sit with him. I just ask, what happened when you were playing? Then slowly he explained everything and we discussed. So that was the emotion that he was feeling, but he didn't know how to explain it
How
or
to
what to
name
name
it?
it.
How to name it? Yes.
Yeah. And when we name it, he was soothed and he was understanding. And we supported him. We went to the other child because as a parenting coach, now I also know that the child who is bullying is also not at a very good space, right? So think of a child like in a busy classroom or after a long school day. They hold everything in. And the moment they reach at a safe place, the emotions spit out. That's dysregulation, not misbehavior. Behavior is actually a communication. You have to go underneath that what the emotion are going on and what actually the need of the child at that moment. And when we understand these emotions, this distinction between dysregulated and a difficult child, our approach also changes. So instead of punishing the behavior that you are not doing homework, but why he is not doing homework? If you know that, then our approach also changes, our response also changes. That instead of punishing the behavior, we support the emotion underneath. We help them co-regulate and we reconnect. So children behave well when they feel well. When they do not, it usually because something inside them needs support, not discipline at that moment.
Correct, very true. I'll give you one example from my own experience. Okay, so now we know the Gen Alphas are in high school, right? And so is my elder one. Um, when I go for the parent teacher meetings, especially after an exam is over, right? And I come back and, she's possibly waiting to see, what kind of reaction I'm going to have. Maybe she's performed well in a few subjects and not performed well in a few subjects. And then, I just stay quiet because back end, I know what effort she has made. Yes, if there are silly mistakes, they correct it. But, and if she's genuinely not working towards something, they correct it. But sometimes I just keep quiet because I know that there has been an effort made. And unlike the kind of pressure that we went through, saying that you have to get good marks in every subject, otherwise you will not get into a good college, you will not get into a good uni, you will not have a good job. Ultimately, it's all about the job, right? But many of us, I think, we've studied something and we're doing something else today. So it's all about being more aware of the world around us, and they are very aware of the world around them. So then I sit down and tell her, because she comes and says, "Hey, Mama, why are you not reacting to certain things? I've not done well in this. I'm sure my math teacher might have said you've not, this is the problems that she's having, or, the science teacher might have said this is what she's doing." And I'm like, listen, you cannot be good in everything.
Right.
What you need to do is nurture what you're really good at. Yes, these are important. You need to have that knowledge. But the kind of opportunities that these children have today, the kind of subjects that they have today, I think is very balanced. And they have that,
Yes.
that freedom to choose multiple things. And somewhere, as parents, we also need to be consciously aware that the world has changed dramatically in the last 20-25 years, ever since we have
So
also
much.
passed out of schools and colleges. So we need to be
Mm.
present and
And the thing is, when we as parents, when we were child, we were also thinking the same, right? My marks are not good, and my parents will say this and that. But now, when we do parenting from the awareness
correct.
that options are there, and even if option is there or not, what is my child good in, what my child want to go in matters.
Absolutely.
They use the logic. They just don't follow the trend that okay, this child is going in this stream and that stream in this college, so I should go. No, they follow their passion, right?
Right. And that's very important because, I'll, couple of years ago when my daughter generally is very artistic. So I told her, like, listen, if you're having issues with, understanding the logic and math and all of that, why don't we shift to homeschooling? You can do
Mm.
what you want to do. And the answer that she gave me took me by surprise. She said, Mama, listen, I'm not going to school only to study. I love my friends and I love the environment
Mm.
over there. So she's
Yeah,
aware that she's going to school to build her social environment, to build her
right,
social skills, the communication within a group, within a society,
right.
And I don't think
Yeah.
when we were at that age, we would have even thought about it. For us, it was all about marks and grades and what's going to happen.
Actually, it was like that. We didn't know why we are studying just to get job, then marriage, and then kids, and so this was like that only. After 10th, okay, science, commerce, arts, and then college, and then marriage, and then job, and so we were on autopilot, I think, and we just follow the trend, whatever going on. But
Yes.
now this generation has options also, and also they know what they want to really do.
Correct, correct. So again, they are uh, in a technology filled world, and technology is unavoidable. Like, forget about Gen
Mm.
Alpha, even we can't live without technology today, right? So, beyond screen time limits, what do you think, Pooja, are these psychological or energetic influence that these digital environments have on their development? You did talk about how it impacts their nervous system because they're constantly on speed and quick mode, right? But beyond this,
Mm.
what other psychological or energetic influence do these digital environments have?
So, Kirtana, as you know, as you said, removing the screen or digital device from our life is not now possible for us and for our kids also, because nowadays school also give homework, gives activities in the school apps, right? So and the research work and different things they have to use screen, but the wisdom in how you are using, how you are managing your screen time. Technology does not just capture AlphaGen's attention; it shapes their energy and their pace, and even how their mind learns to feel. Technology is not just a tool for this generation Alpha. It's an emotional environment also. Like digital spaces move fast. They give instant feedback. It creates this constant stimulation. So their nervous system learns to operate the same speed. And energetically, this creates a very upward activated state in the children. Their body is sitting still, but their mind is racing. I remember when, even though my child was not using screen time, still they were. He was not able to sit still for 1 hour. Like he's sitting here, but his mind is okay. After this, I will do this. After that, I will do that. So the mind is always racing and switching between this, video games or notifications and sounds. This mismatch between stillness and the stimulation that often leads to this restlessness, anxiety, or emotional burst. Mm, in the mall, I've seen the child is wanting some toy, right? And suppose his parents is not allowing to buy, the child just lie down on the floor, and in a moment, just because the other people are seeing, parent bought, but because his mind is always like that, nervous system is operating so fast, he cannot he cannot face that. So, and psychologically, this digital environments shape how they see themselves also. Um, we discussed about external validation earlier. So online spaces offer this instant validation, this likes, comments, wins in the game. Children play the games online, and instant, winning the game, or show having that, kind of a feeling of power, feeling of I have a power, like gun game. This they are shooting someone
Mm,
using gun.
mm,
They get a sense of that I also have a power. I also own something. So, which can make their sense of identity feel external rather than internal. They start asking, like, how I'm feeling, being perceived, instead of how do I feel about myself. Technology also reduces the tolerance for boredom and the stillness. When everything is stimulating, the real world can feel very slow. And that's why many children, struggle with the focus in the study, focus in the class when teacher is teaching something and they can't focus. Struggle with waiting with the slow conversations. जल्दी बोलो क्या करना है ना, this kind of dialogues I have heard, or tasks that requires the sustained attention. But to be honest, technology is not enemy itself. What matters is the balance. We cannot make it zero usage of any digital devices or screen, but we can offer them grounding experience, walking in the nature, unstructured play, quiet moments, and real emotional connection. So that recalibrates their system. And they learn that digital energy is a part of life, not their whole internal world.
right. I'll share one practice. So, one thing is when we go on vacations, right? Um, and all of us in our family, we love hills, we love trekking. So, most often than not, we choose places where we are consciously aware that there is no internet connectivity. 5 days, 10 days, the kids are happy without the mobile phones or the laptops. And generally also, at least in our house, it's very regulated. They don't get too much of screen time because they're busy with other activities. Um, but it's not that they can't live without it. It's just that they're not getting that high in the house because of that lack of emotional connection, as you said.
Yes,
Correct?
yes.
So it's possible. It's not that it's not possible, but
And
it's just.
very good example you shared, Kiratna, because vacation and vacation we still go sometimes in a year, right? Not daily basis, but daily basis. I have seen many children just watch video and eat. They
Hmm,
can't eat without even a digital device, and that is so harmful for their brain, for
correct,
their development.
correct.
So, screen free dinner, screen free lunch, screen free food timing at least should be practiced in homes on a regular basis. And this will not happen if parent is watching something on mobile while eating and expecting kid not to see.
Correct. Absolutely. I think we all need to set that example and need to set certain very specific boundaries. Like,
Yeah,
you have screen time of half an hour, 45 minutes, whatever it is every day, but that's the end of it, and then you need to move on.
that's very
One,
true.
one other practice that I have, probably it could help our listeners, is that during exam time, screen time is a no. But I say you can compensate for this on the last day of your exam. After your exam is over, yes, take 2 hours, 3 hours. You want to watch something, go ahead and watch. We need to be also a little flexible.
Yes. And that's a
especially
very
with
good
growing
good
children.
practice you shared, Kiratna. Uh, we also at home does like this practice because this is the instant reward gratification, right? But when we create digital boundaries, when we create consequences, when we create rewards also, you know, and so that they also listen, they also understand that nothing is going out just for this particular time, particular moment. We need to focus on something which is important right now. So that's a very
Absolutely.
good practice, Kirina, you have shared.
Absolutely. So, Pooja, there's one very interesting question that I have for you. And this is especially where grandparents are involved. Okay. And grandparents definitely are very deeply involved with their grandchildren and the kind of love that they give and all of that. But there are also older frameworks that come into play. So, what role do you think grandparents should play in raising Gen Alpha grandchildren specifically, and how should they update their own approach to connect meaningfully to these children?
So that's a wonderful question, Kiratna, again. Because grandparents, many, when we discussed about the generation gap also earlier, the parenting style that comes from obedience and control. And so grandparents carry immense love, wisdom, and emotional stability, and all of which are incredibly grounded for a Gen Alpha because they are on a always on mode. Their nervous system is always working. Their nervous system is always demanding. So grandparents' presence alone can create even a sense of belonging and continuity.
Correct.
But the challenge arises when older conditioning makes a newer, more emotionally aware children, right? So Gen Alpha does not respond well to authority based, which is based on fear and comparison and suppression, as we discussed earlier also. These approaches that were common in earlier generation, but these children, Alpha Gen children, value respect, emotional safety, and genuine connection. So upgrading does not really mean that grandparents have to learn some new parenting technique like that. No, but it means being curious, listening, and connecting through stories and presence. Stories very well connect to children. So when grandparents tell the stories, being curious about their world, how they are doing, what they are doing, why they are doing, and listening without judgment, not just to offer any advice, because this does not really work with our Alpha Gen children. So when they upgrade their approach from do as I say to let's understand each other, they build very meaningful and deep bonds with our Gen Alpha children. And so their role is very beautiful and essential because our Alpha Gen children needs grounding, needs the stillness experience, the slow down thing, right? So this, even we parent maybe may fail in offering that, but our parents, grandparents of our children can do that very beautifully. Not uh, this should not be like disciplinaries of the past, but as the emotional elders, they can offer grounding, wisdom, and unconditional acceptance to these children.
Absolutely. And I think somewhere, I've seen also Gen Alphas because they're so emotionally sensitive, they're not very malicious per se. So
Mhm.
I'll give you an example of my younger child. So there was this time when my father was giving, some advice, and then he said, my father always said that, you have to carry a pen with you. And she didn't have a pen at that time, and she had asked him for a pen. It was somewhere outside. So immediately she pepped up and said, but my father never told me to carry a pen with me. It came from a place of innocence, but it
Yeah,
shows that, they are not aware of these things. And you, as you said, you need to give stories to help them understand the context, right? Yeah.
Yes, stories help them understand. Even if you really want to tell something to your child, stories, metaphors works very well because they can take the lesson themselves, what can fit into their own environment. Or I remember in a parenting summit also, I talked about let's talk, not tell.
Hmm. Hmm.
Don't directly just tell, do this. You can ask some curious questions, and that can lead to find their own answers, and that will stay with them for the lifelong,
Right. It becomes more meaningful.
more meaningful.
Yes. So, Pooja, as we come to the end of today's episode, if you had to give the parents of Gen Alpha children one very critical piece of advice, something that blends psychology, energy awareness, even conscious leadership for that matter, what would it be?
So first of all, so I would like to say that um, every common thing is not normal. Why I'm saying is, I have seen many parents saying digital screen time and everything is now so much common, so much, and that's why this is normal. Like if my child is having 5 6 hours of digital time, it's not bad. Many parents have heard that because this is common. It's not normal. It is harming your child's brain, right? And if I had to give one just one piece of advice, it would be like take responsibility for your own inner world first. Gen Alpha children are incredibly perceptive. So they feel our emotions, match our energy, and mirror our regulation. So the most powerful form of panic today is self leadership. Psychologically, children learn emotional patterns by watching us, not what we explain, but how we respond when how you are, responding to anyone. They are watching you. How you are breathing, they are watching you. How any conflict happens at home or at outside, how you are doing, how you are handling it, how any failure you are handling, right? So how you are handling any frustration, any feeling you are handling. Energetically, they attune to our state instantly. If we are grounded, they feel grounded. If we are scattered, they become unsettled immediately. So conscious leadership in parenting means leading by state, not by rules. Rules will not work now. And instead of asking how do I get my child to listen, the deeper question becomes what energy am I inviting my child to follow? Because I have heard this also so many times. My child is not listening to me. My child never listens to me. But are you talking the way the children can listen to you? And when we slow down, regulate ourselves, and speak with intention and respond instead of react, something beautifully happens.
Very
The
true.
child naturally aligns with our energy and they feel safe, they feel seen, and they learn emotional maturity, not through force, but like through modeling. We don't have to use a single word, even. They are seeing us, they are learning by seeing us, they are modeling, they are mirroring our energy. So my advice is simple but very transformative if followed. Um, be the calm you really want your child to feel. Be the clarity that you want them to learn, and be the leadership that you want them to follow. So adult first, then the child. Parenting Gen Alpha is not about controlling the child; it's about elevating ourselves so they rise with us.
I think you've said it so beautifully, Puja, it's been such an enriching, such a wonderful conversation. So, most importantly, this is so grounded and so compassionate. So, what stands out very clearly at the end of our conversation is that Gen Alpha children are very different, and you're not supposed to break them, but basically become the wind beneath their wings, because they are not
So
asking to
true.
be controlled, but they're asking to be understood, per se, right?
So
So
true.
to every parent, every grandparent who is listening to this podcast, please understand that your Gen Alpha child or grandchild is not here to fit into your past. They are here to prepare us for the future, because the future is changing very rapidly. And parenting Gen Alpha is not anymore about authority, but it is about being present, it's about regulation, and it is about being you're a leader yourself, so you become an example for the child. It's all about inner leadership. So thank you, Puja, once again, for being on the show, and thank you to all our listeners for joining us again on this episode of Heal with Divinity. Until next time, stay conscious, stay curious, stay aware of the way you parent your Gen Alpha child, and stay aligned and stay divine.
Thank you so much, Kiran.